Right, so now you have now gone online and you've looked at a training system, you've looked at a fitness regime, you've looked at something on the internet that you think is going to be the way forward. You're tired of sitting on the couch, either be it a lockdown or not, and you want to start making a difference to your physical and mental well-being, all of which is fantastic. It's a great move to take. We would encourage that for everyone. There's always something constructive that you can do for your system. Now, as soon as you start entering into the fitness fold, okay, whether it be at any discipline of movement, there are in many cases some questions that start arising after the fact, simply due to the scenario as to how it unfolds. Now, that namely could be pertaining to, is this exercise appropriate for me? How do I know when I've done too much? There are many questions that actually start coming into the fray once you've started a training system that aren't necessarily addressed at the beginning, to give you peace of mind in order to make sure and to give you the confidence knowing that you actually are embarking on a system that's going to be appropriate for you. So, hi everyone, I'm Cameron Carey from Profit Private Training. I'd like to just discuss with you a couple of those questions that do arise, and how do we manage that? How do we take those type of queries into account? What should I look out for? So let's look into the first question. Okay, first question of many. Is this exercise right for me? Is it appropriate for me to do? Now, as an individual starting on an exercise system, you may have had some inherent structural or injury-related history that the prescribed mentor or leader leading your fitness journey needs to be enlightened upon. So that individual needs to understand your history leading up to this point. That is hugely essential, because unless we go through those elements, we don't know as professional trainers whether the client is actually even ready to fit this type of training system that we're looking at designing for that client. So that's essential. The individual needs to be able to screen you appropriately to make sure that first off you fit the mold and your journey is mapped, that we're taking you through those stages, and then by the time you reach the end of that journey, you know, right, I'm about to now embark on a training system. These exercises are all appropriate for me to do. Okay, I know why they're appropriate, because the business or the individual at hand has now screened everything I need in order to make sure that we are catering for what I require, not necessarily what I don't require, and there's no overloading of any specific system that's going to account for wear and tear and or injury. So it's not up to you, it's up to the other individual, but it is up to you to ask those questions to make sure that those needs are being met on the onset. Okay, so how do I know if it's too much? How do I know if this exercise is too much? How do I know if this training system is too much? Well, yet again, the training facility and or system that's prescribing what is actually being set for you needs to be able to tell you, right, this is within your realm. It's not too much based on these stages. Now, if you're given the fitness protocols to you to give you the actual outlook of the fact that you're getting scaled up. So this is where the progression of movements comes into play. When that fitness facility has actually planned out a progressive system for you to make sure that you're now working towards increasing results as you go. All right, that includes namely the program design, okay, and obviously the exercise prescription, the exercise duration, your volume, your intensity, all of that is not for you to know. That's up for the professionals at hand to be able to first off identify, administer, and present something that's actually going to be feasible for you. So to go back to it, how do I know if it's too much? Well, your body is going to be sending you a lot of different signals whilst exercising. You need to know, are those signals that I'm receiving acceptable messaging, or what should I be looking out for? Has someone told you what you should be feeling? Has someone told you what you should be looking out for with regards to red flags in exercise? Has someone actually told you exactly what postural positioning you need to assume and how to assume it in order to make sure that you gain benefit through that exercise? I'm sure you're getting the gist. There's quite a few questions that you as an individual can ask in order to make sure that those needs are met, in order to give you the full impression, right, I know this is within my capabilities, it's not too much, I'm good to go, I'm really going to challenge myself on the system, and I'm going to go forward with it. Okay, so another commonly asked question that pops up into people's minds is, what is this exercise meant to do? In many cases, people are prescribed movement. Nobody's actually explained to them, first off, what is it meant to do? Why is it placed there? What is it in combination with? What is the design pertaining to the whole training system, and what are we wanting to achieve out of that component of exercise? So that type of information needs to be readily fed to the client at hand to say, right, guys, this is exactly what you should be looking for. So the actual details surrounding an exercise are complicated. You've got intrinsic muscles, you've got extrinsic muscles. Your system adapts and compensates dramatically at the drop of a hat for all modes of movement. So taking that into account, it's hugely essential that you as a client, or anyone for that matter, ask the relevant questions. What does this exercise do? Have I been told what it does for me? Do I understand anything about it? And once you are given that information pertaining to, okay, what is it meant to do? It basically imprints again in your mind, okay, right, now this fits the entire picture. So it just adds another piece of the puzzle into your picture, your fitness profile that you're working towards, and now you start buying into that even further. These type of concepts are essential. If no one's describing that to you, you're with the wrong person. All right, so now the commonly asked question is, what is the plan for this training program? Okay, over and above just the exercise. What is the plan? Has someone given you a detailed impression as to what journey you're taking in order to make sure that you are fundamentally going to progress going forward in step 1 and step 2? And you're really going to buy into it and you're going to give it your all. You need, as a client, you need to know the long-term outlook as to where you're going. There's no ways you can drive forward until you know your destination. That destination needs to be mapped out to you. Okay. However, in order to make sure that you achieve that destination intended, the training program and or system needs to give you those benchmarks along the way to give you that idea as to exactly how they're scaling your training in order to make sure that you're not setting up for a shortfall at a later stage. There's nothing worse than working towards a goal, achieving some goal. Now you're feeling great, you're feeling empowered, you're in a great space, you really are starting to feel the benefit that you wanted to achieve, and now there's a bit of a dead end. You feel somewhat directionless. Everything should be mapped out very clearly to you, okay? And to give you what? To give you the confidence, to give you that sense that you are getting led in the right direction. You know the whole outlook as to where you're heading towards, and now you're working towards something constructive. So yet again, those are the type of features and questions that need to be asked. Okay, so yet another question. How do I know if this training system meets my requirements as an individual? Okay, so yet again, unfortunately, you're not to know. It's up for the professionals to tell you that it does and give you the reasoning why it actually meets your requirements. So as a client, you're going to have a set of criteria, okay, that you're trying to meet in order to make sure that you can grab onto something, you can move forward with it, and you're starting a process that's not going to be short-lived. That's the whole intended idea behind getting into something and moving forward. So the one thing that trainers, coaches around the world generally do, and it is quite prolific for the most part, is that there's poor explanation given to certain training systems. There's a lot of individuals that basically look great on camera. They present their physiques all very well, but what does that mean to you as a client? Absolutely nothing. So the fact that they've got a six-pack and the fact that you're wanting to lose 6 kilos, okay, it doesn't mean that whatever that individual is doing actually meets your requirements. So it's important to understand that your criteria need to be met at where you are placed currently. And yet again, as you go through your training system, those criteria are going to change along with how you progress in your training system, along with your fitness related and strength related goals. Everything changes, which is great. It's what's meant to happen. But to meet your requirements, the individual at hand that's actually responsible for managing your fitness profile is an individual that needs to take that whole holistic picture into account. That means correct screening on all levels, okay, not just a few. It doesn't mean how you're feeling today, okay, what goals would you like to achieve, all right, and now we're going to map out a training system that's pretty much generic in its design, and the last 40 people got the same training system. That, in our humble opinion, is not a service, and it actually really, again, like anything else, any form of generic processing or cookie cutter approach, as often mentioned, is simply going to lead to income generated for a business and or individual, but ultimately it's not going to meet your requirements. So that individual, going back to it, needs to address everything from your physiological well-being to your structural maintenance, to absolutely everything. There's a list of criteria that need to be met, okay, and all of those elements need to be ticked, okay, you need to be taken through that as an individual. Obviously, bearing in mind, online exercise becomes a little bit more challenging because now you don't have that one-on-one scenario with the person. And yes, okay, are there certain things that slip out the system from a training perspective because you can't screen that online? Yes, there are. But ultimately, be that as it may, if that is the platform that you choose to use, you've got to ensure that the relevant screening that can be done is being done. Many individuals also need to be correctly trained, and have the right qualifications to be able to achieve this. So, as a client, asking the relevant questions pertaining to people's qualifications, experience can be variable because is it my opinion, or actually do you have that experience, or are you just looking good? Okay, looking good for a year, that means absolutely nothing to a client. So yet again, that training system needs to take you in mind from every single angle, and all the relevant questions need to be asked, either be it online or on a training system, before you embark on that whole process. Okay, so now we are going to delve into the whole progression title that was previously stated at the beginning of the video. So as you can see, all the previous questions that I was basically firing off earlier in the video are questions that commonly pop up in people's minds. Now, that basically leads us onto the whole progression concept. Now, as trainers are very well versed in the concept of instruction. A lot of people instruct clients what to do. So they'll type what they need to do. They'll verbally cue them on exactly what they are requiring the client to do. That's all very well. Okay, has the client been given the entire outlook as to what they're entering into pertaining to exercise for that day or their plan going forward? Like I mentioned earlier with a couple of questions, it's very important as a client that you understand the journey set for you so you can really buy into it. So you're not only partaking in an exercise system, you really start to feel empowered, where someone has your genuine sense of motivation as the key factor to focus on. So we need to ensure now that as trainers, we are meeting the client at their requirements, which means what? We need to understand when to progress a movement or to regress a movement. Now, that scaling concept pertains to what? It pertains to an exercise, it pertains to a training system. So that training system needs to evolve. Your exercise should be an evolving process the whole time. Okay, you never want to find yourself as a client embarking on a training system, which is great. It leads you to a certain extent, and you're starting to feel the benefits of it. And then there's unfortunately a bit of a shortfall where the client is left at a bit of a dead end, where they don't know how to progress going forward. That the journey hasn't been mapped past that point. There's nothing worse than that, because that really just is disheartening. So from a training perspective, is that you as a client want to find yourself in a training portfolio managed by a system, a trainer, an online coach, wherever it may be. That individual needs to take all of this into account. And as a client, you are well within your position to ask all these relevant questions to make sure that the individual that you are dealing with is well informed, well trained, namely well educated. So that trainer, stroke coach, mentor needs to understand all the concepts related to movement, okay, and also the structural well-being pertaining to the client. So in order to make sure that you are being regressed or progressed effectively during exercise in itself, the actual training mentor needs to understand, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, your medical history, but also in saying that needs to understand your level of physiological capabilities. And be able to accurately set what he or she feels is going to be pertinent given your requirements right now. Full well knowing that in due course it is going to change, which is great. We need to get results. But results are only going to be an ongoing process if there's sustainability given a professional direction. That professional direction needs to be met by someone who takes this type of scenario, this holistic scenario, into account. There's a lot of trainers that look good online. There's a lot of people that have a six-pack, but if you as a client are looking at losing 6 kilos and someone's got a six-pack, what does that effectively mean for you? Nothing. Okay, great. Your abs look awesome. Good for you. But how does that help me? So at the end of the day, it really is about actually dealing with someone directly, being able to really connect with someone, either be it online or in person, however it may be. But a lot of those questions need to be fundamentally answered in order to give you, the client, the full sense of satisfaction that you know, all right, I'm actually now, I've got a bit of a journey ahead of me. I'm really looking forward to it. And now, because I can see a long-term outlook and because I've been screened correctly, now that screening pertains to many factors, not just one or two questions. Because I've had all of that done, I've got full confidence in knowing that I'm actually I'm in the right place and I'm moving forward and I can really start buying into, and that individual is ready for me to be able to contact at any given time and offer me the information that I need. Okay, and that is also key. So the progression regression concept is something that is unfortunately hugely missed in fitness nowadays, especially the concept of regression, not progression. So in order for a training system to be effective, does the trainer need to, at any given point, be able to regress a movement in order to make sure that it actually fits the capabilities of the client? Absolutely. And more times than what we realize. There is no shame, okay, and at Profit, we take no shame in regressing a client, pulling them out of that training system, and then going into a little bit more of a conservative approach to make sure that when we regress a concept and or movement, we are meeting the client where the client is at. Which means what? The client's going to get the direct added benefit of what we've just selected as opposed to what we thought was appropriate. Okay, so it is about that instinctive process to being able to know what is necessary now, where we're going forward. So that regression concept is something that really should be used, in my opinion, all the time. Because when you go back, you can go far, you can jump that much further forward. Every time you step back, there's nothing wrong with it. So the whole regression progression concept is something that as clients, as people out there looking at embarking on a training system, I would really urge you to look into. How that would give you also the very good impression to know, okay, is this what I need? Okay, given the exercise, the training plan, all those questions that I previously chatted about, is that right? All those boxes being ticked. If that is being ticked, then great, I'm in the right place. And not only that, is that this business stroke coach mentor, this person is now taken into account exactly all those criteria that is important to the business. Because if it's important to them, it's going to enable you to get to where you need to be. With regards to the fitness industry, well, it's huge. It's massive. Everybody knows it's massive. Everybody's doing online current training at this stage, which is not a problem with online. However, the same type of approach has got to be given. So unless the client is taken down that path, that client is well understood from a physiological and from a structural perspective by the business at hand, there's going to be some shortfalls along the way, which ultimately is only going to lead to either be it a stopping exercise, which is ultimately is just disaster all around, or the fact that the person just feels totally inhibited by the fact that they actually can't achieve what they originally set out to do, and they feel like a failure, which is the absolute pits again. So, when someone reaches that place, it's very disheartening for me, doing what I do, doing what we do at Profit, and doing what we love. We've got a very unique approach to movement. We stick to it. We don't deviate off it. But that same type of belief system is applied to every single thing we do and all the different type of service offerings we do. So as a client, make sure that you're in that position where those questions previously are asked, they're checked, and hopefully this gives you something to think about, some advice that possibly that you can utilize further down the line that may pop up later. If you're doing a training system that you feel is, okay, is this worthy? What did that guy say? Maybe what I should ask this. You'll be very surprised as to what you can get back, because that's going to give you an accurate idea as to whether it's a win or a lose. So it's all in your hands. I hope you found this video enjoyable. I'm Cameron from Profit Private Training, and take care.